Hi, welcome to Canfield and Company. I am your host, Rob Canfield. Today I have a special guest, Troutdale Mayor, Casey Ryan. Welcome to the show, Casey.
Thank you, Rob.
Thanks very much for coming here today.
Welcome. You're
Good
welcome.
to see you.
Yeah, I'm glad you had me.
Yeah, we've been wanting to have you on for a while. I'm glad I finally asked you to come on the show.
Yeah.
So let me tell you a little bit about Mayor Ryan. He is a native Oregonian. He was raised in the northeast part of Oregon in beautiful Wallowa County. I didn't know that about you.
Yeah.
And he's been a resident of Troutdale since February 2006. He's a father of 4 children, and he's married to an amazing partner, Sarah. She's really awesome. She's a really nice lady. So you got a good one there.
They say even a blind squirrel finds a nut once in a while.
That's right. Yeah. Now he's an active member out here at East Multnomah County. He's served on multiple boards, committees, you name it. He currently sits on the board of Mount Hood Community College Education Foundation and the East Metro Economic Alliance. And I'm not going to list the multiple, there's about 5 pages of organizations he has been involved with over the last 20 years. So if you want to know more about him, I'll post it on the We Love Troutdale page. He went to Enterprise High School, graduated in 1989.
Yep.
He is an Oregon State Beaver, graduated in 1994, and he went to the Pacific Coast Banking School at the University of Washington in 2010. So I have to hand it to you, growing up in Enterprise, those winters must have been a little bit brutal.
Yeah, it was, a little bit like this year here, right? I mean, we had some rough ones. I remember when we wouldn't see grass for like 3 months. And so when it finally melted, you could see the grass and you could see your driveway and the gravel. It was a big deal, you know, so. Yeah, and they had that this year. This year they had a horribly snowy winter. So
it can get brutal there.
Yep.
Now, I saw you on a chamber luncheon on Cable East, Metro East.
Yep.
And you talked about last year you didn't know if you were even going to run for mayor. How did that evolve from you don't know what you're going to do to here you are? How did that evolve?
I don't want to belittle the fact that the people who spend time really just developing a plan to run and all that. So the way I've done my life a lot is I don't always spend a lot of time thinking about something. I just kind of go with my gut. And I got a phone call from a detective from Multnomah County who I'm friends with. He's a local Troutdale resident, and he said, this was on a Friday afternoon, and he called me up and he said, hey, a few of us have been talking, and would you run for mayor? And this is exactly how it went, Rob. I said, yeah, I'll do it. And he goes,
I'll do it.
Yep, and that was it. And he goes, okay, all right. And I go, what do I do now? And he goes, well, it was a Friday afternoon, and you got to have these 25 signatures in by Tuesday at 5. I said, okay. And so he goes, so I'll have someone call you. And then he started doing the thing. But that was it. That was the whole thought process.
Just like that?
That was it.
Wow.
And I went home and I told Sarah, I'm like, hey, what do you think about me running for mayor? And she's like, well, what's that look like? And I said, I really don't know. And I didn't. I mean, I was being honest. And so I'd never campaigned. I never had any idea that over the years, because I was so active with so many things, people were asking me like, hey, you want to be on school board?
Sure.
Why don't you run for council? And I was always like, nah, I didn't really want to do that.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it was at that moment. It was just, it wasn't anything against the person I ended up running against, Councilor Allen. It was nothing. Honestly, I knew Councilor Allen's name just because I knew they were on the council, but
sure.
I didn't know anything really. So, I was so busy doing so many other things. I just,
And actually, to me, it's like a natural progression. Being involved in the community for such a long time, it's a natural progression, I think, for you to run for office. And since Mayor Dowse decided to step down, I think it was good for you to run.
Yeah.
And the campaign was a little interesting.
It was.
I'm not going to get into that. Let's just keep that in the past.
Yeah.
We don't really. Some people ask me to talk about that, but I don't think it's necessary.
Yeah. The only thing I will say is that one thing I did, and I was proud of myself through the campaign, is there was some factions on 2 sides, and I got thrown in on one side, but I was always consistently telling people that their fight's not my fight, and I was always very upfront about that I'm running this campaign and it's about me, and at the end of the day, if the residents of Troutdale don't like what I have to do and what I've done in the past and what I may be able to do, I'm okay, if I didn't win, right?
And you're right, there were like two factions.
Yep.
But you weren't a part of either.
Nope.
You were just running for mayor.
Yep.
Let the people of Troutdale decide, hey, do you want me or not?
Yep. And it was interesting because I will say that was, I mean, this was a smaller town mayor's race, right? But it definitely put you through a lot. It was more than what I ever could have anticipated.
Yeah.
You know, because I just didn't understand, you know, some of the stuff that was going on and the anger on these, you know. And so I get it why I was thrown under one side, but at the end of the day, I think I've done a really good job of showing people that, hey, I was my own man and I'm still that, you know, so.
Yeah, and I think that because you won by such a large margin, I think you showed that, hey, you are nobody's.
Yeah.
You are nobody's in anybody's pocket. You're running for Troutdale.
I was, yeah.
For everybody.
Yeah.
You're not on a faction. I think that's really positive.
Yeah,
for,
and I
for
knew
Troutdale.
that once I got into office, if I won, and then when I did win, that I was going to really need to work hard to make sure that people understood that. And I reached out to all the counselors right away, and I was able to meet with them, and you know, we had to build a trust. And the whole time, people would ask me, "What's your agenda?" I said, "You know what? My agenda is leadership and civility, because that's what the council needs." And I said, "You know, the way I see this is I'm captain of a team." And I got picked to be captain, and these are my players, and this is my team, and we got to work together. And so my job is to be a good facilitator, a good leader, and do the best I can to keep us moving in a positive direction, and hopefully in a manner where if we are going to be disagree, that we don't need to be disagreeable. And I constantly, and you go to council meetings, and I state that a lot, is that we're representing the people of Troutdale. We need to be statesmen. And you know, the yelling and the screaming and the fighting, you know, at the end of the day, nobody on that council is getting paid enough for that much anger. And so
it's true. And the nice thing is the way you've approached the job of running the meetings, and the very first meeting when our city attorney put out, these are the rules of discourse on the city council. And I think that calmed things down a lot. Everybody now is going to have to be on their best behavior. These are the rules, and you got to abide by them.
Yeah. So. And you know, we're going to have some challenging things coming forward, so we're going to have to remind ourselves, and you know, we all at one time will be competitive and will be something we're passionate about.
Sure.
But I think if we keep reminding ourselves that it's not life or death, and at the end of the day, you know, is it really worth, you know, that much anger? So
we can have discourse without being disrespectful to each other.
And I know it's interesting. I tell people too, is that the city wants that. When I was out, I knocked on tons of doors personally, and that's what the city said they wanted, was a council that got along, and because it makes the people feel better, because nobody wants to hear that, oh, you're from Troutdale, oh, I heard that council, man, they're just a mess.
Bad reputation, and it looks like it's been changed. We're going to be right back after this. We're going to ask some pretty cool questions of Casey Ryan, like what are his priorities. We'll be right back after this. Hi, we're back on Canfield and Company with my guest today, Troutdale Mayor Casey Ryan. Well, now you're mayor, Casey.
Yeah.
And the first question I want to ask you, what are your top 3 priorities to accomplish in the next 4 years?
My first priority, and maybe I'll do a couple, you know, maybe I'll do 3 or 4, because this one didn't seem like a priority, and I mentioned it before, was to bring civility and leadership to the council. That was my main agenda, was to do that. Besides that, the first thing is we got Project Piper, which I know that's out there in the paper, but I'm still under a non-disclosure agreement.
Amazon. It's been on the papers, yeah.
So Project Piper, but that is going to be an amazing thing for our community if Project Piper happens. I mean, people don't quite even know how great it's going to be, and to the point where it's going to put Oregon on the map if Project Piper can go. It's that big a deal as far as, and if, you know, this is Hillsborough got Intel.
They did.
This will be our Intel. I mean, it's that big a deal. So that's number one. I'd like to see downtown get finished. I would like to, and I'm meeting with the developer, Brentbrook and Pat Hamlin here soon to talk about what they're going to do with the commercial part there. Number 3 is obviously our urban renewal district that we passed 11 years ago. I'd like to see something happen there. I don't know exactly where we're at for sure. We're meeting on the 21st of March, and we're having a URA meeting to continue the discussions with East Winds. But ultimately, at the end of the day, and that's what I said countless times, is I don't have a dog in the fight on who it is, but I'd certainly like to see something done there. So if it's East Winds, great. If it's someone else, that's fantastic too. But the voters decided they wanted something there, and it's too good of property not to do something. I'd like to see the city council and the city continue to work strong with Reynolds School District. That's been a big part of what I've done so far. We have Reynolds High School is going to get an upgrade. Troutdale Elementary is going to be brand new.
Brand new.
I will say this, and I've said this a long time. New schools, good schools, are great economic development because families want their kids in schools that they are proud to go to. They feel like the kids are safe.
You bet.
And then Imagination Station, which we're working on that. That's going to be done here soon. I'd like to continue. And then the last thing really is that I want the people of Troutdale to realize that we're sitting on a winning hand. Like, there are so many communities that don't have what we have. And the fact that we have this industrial area, the Tripp property, that is away from our downtown. It's away from our livability, which means no matter really what we put down there, it's not going to affect the downtown. It's not going to affect any part of Sweetbriar, any of that area.
Right.
And that's unusual. I mean, you're not seeing that with the city of Gresham. I mean, some of that stuff's right in the heart of their city, where ours is away.
And for instance, we read in the media just today that TriMet purchased a big piece of property in the middle of Gresham's development district to store buses.
Yeah.
And I know that the Mayor Bemis is not too happy about it. He's expressed his concerns with TriMet. We don't have anything like that.
We really don't. I mean, when I was campaigning, I was out talking to people. I would be like, I feel like Troutdale is a bunch of people sitting around and we're all playing poker, and everybody that's playing poker is from Troutdale, and we all have winning hands, but none of us know how to play poker. So we keep folding, and then the dealer turns them over and goes, "Man, any one of you guys were going to beat me," And that's what Troutdale's been for years. I mean, we have our own airport. We're by an international airport. We have an outlet mall. We got a truck stop. We got McMiniman's Edgefield. I mean, for crying out loud, the people that I'm going to see John Mellencamp there this summer, right, with 5,000 other people. Adele started her world tour there.
Exactly. Or as a former city manager said, it's a Disneyland for drinkers.
Exactly. It's a big, And then we have this cute, quaint downtown, and then we got the gores that we're in the mouth of, and we have Sandy River. And so when you start doing all that and you start checking off the boxes of all the wonderful things we have, then you go to another city, maybe in Oregon, they would have less than half of that. And so it's like we need to feel really good about who and what we are. And
I think you're right. We've been dealt a great hand. It's just a matter of we need to have the courage and the fortitude to play the hand we've got.
Exactly.
Now, speaking of urban renewal, is there any progress on what's going on there? The city, I think, did the deal with the East Winds development about the road through the outlet mall about a year ago. Is there any progress being made about getting that
I'll know more on the 21st in the urban renewal meeting. There has been progress. There's been, I know the city staff's been working with the developers, but I don't know all the details of everything where we're at. So,
And I know there was a little crink in the progress because the change of ownership of the outlet mall. You had to start with new players.
Which I will say, I talked to intern city manager Ray Young yesterday, and he had a really good conversation with that outlet mall. And I will say, in fact, that there's a lot of misinformation about what the folks there and the fact what they want to do with that outlet mall. And so they're better partners to our community than what we were led to believe.
Yeah, and from what I understand, this is like the only outlet mall they have.
It isn't.
It isn't?
They have, I believe they have one or two others, but they have other retail type centers. So that's where Ray was really like, you got to learn more about them, that they know what they're doing. This wasn't just something they bought to then,
There's a reason they purchased this particular property,
want
is
it.
what you're saying.
And if you notice, new signs are going up.
I noticed that. I thought, did the wind tear them down, or what?
No, they actually put new ones in. So, and they're going to do some more upgrades. And I've heard, and this is just all hearsay, but there's a restaurant that's going on down there eventually, and there might be a coffee shop. Which one coffee shop we would all know. down that way, and then there's another anchor that they're talking about for a store.
Well, that's great news, especially a restaurant and a coffee shop. Every time we go down there, I'm thinking, I need a cup of coffee. I can't keep going to Harry and David for the little mini sample cup. I need a real cup of coffee while I'm walking around, so that's good news.
Yeah, so we're excited about that. So
we're going to just keep on going with these questions. Troutdale City Hall.
Yeah.
That is, I think, been on the back burner for a while. Has there been any change in the status about selling the old City Hall, or like a couple of the city councils, I think, want to try and rebuild it?
Yeah.
Which I don't think that's a good idea. That hill is still sliding. It's been sitting there fallow for years. Is there any progress being made on what to do about a new City Hall?
Progress being as little as right now is me saying it's important. Intern city manager Ray is saying it's important. Where I want to be, and I've asked Ray Young to do this, is because I think everybody needs to have a say on when we make big decisions like that. And there's a segment of the population and a counselor or two that still see maybe the old City Hall as viable. Well, I'm not saying it is or it isn't, but let's go in and let's find out what it costs to get that thing up and running. Because until we have numbers, we don't know. And so I want numbers. And so we're working towards that, to where we're going to get in there and let's lay it out and say, okay, we think it will cost this much for a new City Hall, or this is how much it'll cost to do this one. Then otherwise we have nothing, we're just talking. Then
you have real data to make a decision with.
Yeah. And so I've asked Ray to move forward with that, and I'll keep reminding him that this is important to me, because I'd like to have a City Hall. It is. And with Multnomah County, what they're doing, and they bought Frank Windust's property up behind, I'm sure you knew that, right? So there's going to be some development going on down there.
Mr. Windust has been trying to sell that property since as long as I've been in Troutdale.
So Multnomah County bought it, and so
that's good news.
And they're building there, and there's going to be some offices and so there's more economic development coming.
Right.
So
good job, Mr. Windust. You finally sold your property. He'll be right back after this with some more questions for Troutdale's mayor. Hi, we're back on Canfield and Company. I'm Rob Canfield, your host. And again, with me today on the show is Troutdale Mayor Casey Ryan. Thanks for coming on the show.
You're welcome.
So a big issue in Troutdale right now, Metro had a big community meeting a week or so ago, is the Springwater Trail. I attended the meeting. I think you were there.
It was.
And the parking lot was full. There was about 150 people there.
Yeah.
And just waiting in line to get into the room, I couldn't believe it. I went to a community meeting and had to wait in line to get in. The negative comments from folks just in line about how badly they did not want it. It didn't really surprise me, but the emotion they were exuding, it kind of surprised me.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on what Troutdale should say to Metro regarding Springwater?
Well, where I'm leading the council, and on March 24th council meeting, we're going to address this issue. And so where I'm headed with it is I'm not saying we don't want it ever, but this is not the right time, and we want to pass right now. I believe that I can get the council to go that way. I don't think it's a horrible idea, but I think the timing is really horrible. And I think that our big neighbors to the west, there's some issues there they got to fix, because you drive into the city of Portland, you see homeless and the issues they had with, under Mayor Hales and kind of, hey, camp where you want. And so that's in everybody's mind. And 2 years ago, this could have been a consent agenda item at a council meeting.
It could have been.
I believe in the trails. I believe that it would make livability better, but I don't believe it would right now. And the end of the day, and I've said this in the paper and to countless people, is that my job is to represent the city of Troutdale and the residents. There are people that I'm sure are in favor of it, but boy, they're not saying much. And I've been very open and honest. I need to hear from both sides, right? And I have gotten very few, and I say few, maybe less than 3 positive comments from people from Troutdale. But I've got a whole bunch on the negative side. And do I believe that all the fears are going to happen or justified? No, I think we get kind of going with things and it gets bigger than it needs to be. But at the end of the day, a lot of what people are saying is true. And there needs to be more of a comprehensive plan. You can't just say, hey, we're going to build a trail. We need to know how's it going to be policed, you know. So.
Yeah, and I agree with you. And I'm looking at this from a problem solution point of view. If we want this trail, we have to say to Metro, okay, fine. You say that, oh, the crime and the trail are not connected. Well, they are.
Yeah.
Because one causes the other right now. And I'd say, hey, Metro, if you want to write a check for security, if you want to write a check and be a partner with trail maintenance, then maybe we talk. But I know they probably don't want to do that until they can get a handle on the maintenance issue, the homeless issue, which it's separate, but it's not.
Yeah.
I think it's time to say, well, thanks, but no thanks right now. Let's just let people work on the issues, and then we can talk about it again in 4 or 5 years.
And that's that's where I'm at. I think we need to. And one thing I'm very careful about is I don't want too much hitting the council too much. I mean, if too much hits the council and you get spread in too many directions, then what happens is that's where you start getting the negativity. That's where because you don't really know, and you've been a councilor, so you understand. Nobody knows what it's like to be sitting in those seats until you're sitting in those seats. And everybody's emailing you and they're talking to you and all that, and it wears on you a little bit, especially when there's these big issues that come up.
And everybody, you get it from all sides. And you know as much about it as everybody else. You have to become an instant expert. Have you noticed that?
Exactly. Yeah, you do. And then
they think you know it all, but you don't.
And I think even as mayor, there's even a little bit more of that, right? Like just the title makes people think, oh my gosh, the mayor should know, right? And so I'm being very careful to make sure that the big things that we have coming with the council, that we don't overwhelm ourselves. Like our next meeting, March 14th, is going to be a longer meeting than I want them to be, because you can't work all day and then sit in a 4-hour meeting. But there's really no way to schedule some of this, and so but the next meeting is not one I'm going to be supportive of always. I'm not interested in working all day and then sitting in 3.5 hour meetings where we have to make important decisions. And I'm sure that fellow councilors are the same way.
And I know from personal experience, you cannot make good decisions at 10:30, 11 o'clock at night.
Exactly.
It just doesn't work that way.
And so
you're going to be having some goal-setting sessions with your council probably in a month or two.
We hope so.
My issue before has been they're not really goals; they're like wish lists. Are you going to do anything about that? Maybe tie some accountability down. Who's responsible for things, due dates, like any other project, like Gresham does. What are your thoughts on that?
If we're going to do that, then that's how we would do it. Otherwise, it is a wish list. I agree. I'm not sure we're quite there yet. I'm still working with the new team, right? I'm still kind of feeling our way, and I'm still finding out, what's my power? What can I do? What can't I do? I'm very careful to make sure that I never think being the mayor means that I have any more say or anything. So I'm very careful of that, and to never let a self-importance ever get in the way of the job. And so I'm very careful to make sure I ask questions, and can I even do that? I don't even know, and so
Question for you. One of East County mayors, Mayor Tosterud in Fairview, really nice guy. He pushes hard for combining the 3 cities, claiming we're going to run out of tax money in several years, which is probably true. What do you think about consolidating the 3 cities?
Okay, so now I'm talking as a Troutdale citizen and not as the mayor of Troutdale. So I'm going to make sure this is not for the council. I'm not in favor of it. I like our identity in Troutdale. I do.
I do
too. I think we can be self-sufficient. I do, and I do. If I didn't think we could be, then I wouldn't have wanted to be mayor. So
I think it's more local control. The more people get involved, the less chance average guys like you and me could be on a council.
Exactly.
Well, that's it for our show. Thanks again,
You're welcome.
Mayor Ryan, for being on the show. If you have any questions or comments on the show, give me email at robert@robertcanfield.com. You can also check previous shows on our YouTube, on our website, Canfield and Company. Thanks again, Mayor Ryan, for being on the show.
You're welcome.
And thanks again for watching our show. And you guys have a great Canfield and Company day.